back in '56. Elvis is pretty much at a peak at this point. He's put out the great records. He's caused the sensations. He's caused a kind of cultural riot around America. He's done the things that make him Elvis.
No white star had ever moved in quite as blatantly sexual and suggestive a manner as Elvis did. And it was a huge part of his popularity.
Girls, lose control of their bodily functions when he's on stage. I mean, it's a big deal.
But he still could have been considered at the time no more than a fluke. So when he played Vegas in '56, his long-term success was by no means assured.
Elvis first came to Las Vegas in 1956, and he did a couple weeks at the Frontier Theater. It was sort of a natural move, really, for anybody who wanted some sort of mainstream success. The question is, was Elvis ready to be quite so mainstream at that point?
Well, Elvis was booked into Vegas by his manager, Colonel Parker. Elvis more or less went along with what Colonel Parker said. He thought Colonel Parker was a genius, which he was in his own right.
The Colonel was a very smart businessman, and he knew that he needed to expand his appeal as much as possible.
I don't think he trusted all these teenagers, to keep coming to see Elvis. The only way he believed Elvis could make a career for himself was to get this established audience who would continue to come to see him.
But Vegas, and back in the 50s, there was no rock and roll artist here in the city.
The mainstream artists were like Frank Sinatra, Rosemary Clooney, Patti Page, Eddie Fisher, people like that.
When Elvis came to the New Frontier, he was billed, in fact, as a singing sensation and comedy find. So apparently they weren't sure whether he would be a comic act or a singer. He was third on the bill below Freddie Martin and Shecky Greene, the comedian. So he definitely wasn't seen as a marquee attraction.
Elvis played in the Venus Room at the New Frontier Hotel. The audience that saw him in Las Vegas was a middle-aged audience.
Very high-class suits and tuxedos and women wearing gorgeous gowns and everything.
He was very much a fish out of water. He was used to people standing up. He was not used to a crowd sitting at tables, having drinks, having dinner. But in Vegas, they sat there and said, entertain us.
He went from kids screaming to an audience that sat there with their arms folded.
Freddie Martin had a full orchestra, and suddenly here's this hillbilly cat with three guys who's up there doing the kind of songs they didn't come there to see. One of his band members said it was the first time I was ever able to hear how out of tune I was.
Well, they didn't know what to make of him. They just, thank you. Next.
The Las Vegas appearance was somewhat ridiculed in Newsweek and Life. Life called him a howling hillbilly. It was really the one misstep that Elvis made in this vertiginous rise to the top.
Elvis was one of those type guys that he really hurt his feelings that he couldn't draw the audience to him here.
It was a bad experience, and Elvis and Colonel Tom Parker did not want to go back to Vegas unless they could do it and do it right.
But on the whole, Vegas was a town that appealed to him. He also liked a lot of those Vegas entertainers.
After Elvis would perform at the Frontier, he would go visit other lounges.
In the 60s, the Sahara Hotel had a lounge over there. All the stars and showgirls would all go there about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody would be in the audience, Sinatra, Sammy, Dean. Elvis was a very big fan of the Rat Pack. And we all just hung out together.
Las Vegas was endlessly enthralling to him, the wide-open atmosphere, the sexual atmosphere of it. Stuff wasn't going on in Memphis the way it was in Las Vegas.
Vegas was the mecca of the entertainment world. It was 24 hours a day, party, showbiz, girls, fun, entertainment. It was Elvis' style of life because Elvis was a night person. In Vegas, you could stay up all night and sleep all day, and then when you got up around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, Vegas was rocking.
When he was making his early movies in Hollywood, he and the boys would all stop in Vegas for a few days on their way back to Memphis after the movie.
Elvis would just say, hey, let's go to Vegas. It became our #1 party city. By then, everywhere we went, he drew a crowd. But they had a rule out in Vegas, an unwritten rule, and that was you don't mess with the superstars. Elvis liked that aspect because go out and people wouldn't bother him too much.
Well, just a couple of 3 things wrong with your proposition.
Oh?
I don't work for anybody. I never run second to anybody. And one small thing. I intend to win.
When Elvis got ready to make Viva Las Vegas, it became very exciting. More excited than I've seen him on a picture in a long time. It was being made in his favorite town, Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas is probably the largest full-scale movie musical that he did. In some ways, it's an extension of what he did in Jailhouse Rock, but it's on a grander scale.
The other thing that he had in that movie was he had a co-star who could give him a run for his money. Before that, Elvis didn't have co-stars who could stand toe-to-toe with Elvis and make you believe for 1 second that they might walk away from him. Anne Margaret could do that.
He's not fooling me, he's with my rival. And I know right where they are. He's carrying things too far. My rival is a baby blue racing car.
Here was Anne Margaret who could sing, and she could dance, and she could act.
Her appeal, obviously, was her raw sexuality, her beauty, and her ability to dance. And the type of dancing she did at the time was very hip back in the 60s.
She had just had a big hit with Bye Bye Birdie, which really made her an up-and-coming star, and a lot of people thought she was a rock and roll star with the same sort of energy and charisma that Elvis had.
She was the female him. I mean, Elvis actually said that to me, and that she was very fascinating to him.
In Viva Las Vegas, we've got them both, which is the equivalent of saying we have both Dynamite and TNT.
The thing that people pick up on the most in Viva Las Vegas is the spark that exists between Elvis and Anne Margaret. It's what animates the scenes the most and what gives the film its greatest lift.
Well, then I'd like you to check my motor. It whistles.
I don't blame it.
There was just something about the two of them. You could just see the sparkle in their eyes that I knew there was going to be a little romance going on there.
As the movie went along, they became close. She would come over to the hotel after the shooting and party with us and to the wee hours of the morning. And it was just a good deal. I mean, she fit in, and that's what Elvis liked about her also. She didn't have that star attitude.
I mean, remember, I was dating him. I was a girlfriend at the time. But when he would speak of her, when he would speak about her, I sensed that he really loved her.
There was this sense of these people belonged together. So what you see from Elvis here is a more engaged performance on every level.
When he does something like Come On Everybody with Anne Margaret,
See the girl with the diamond ring. She knows how to shake that thing.
it brings to mind what Elvis had been in many ways. And that rocker who had gotten people inspired.
The movie definitely tied him to Vegas in a way that he hadn't been tied to Vegas before. He had been a frequent visitor to Vegas, but that's not the same as making a movie called Viva Las Vegas, and then the song is a hit.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul, gonna set my soul on fire.
Elvis thought that the title song for Viva Las Vegas was great. And he thought it was probably the best song he'd had in a long time.
It's one of the few songs that Elvis sings that has nothing to do with the guy-girl relationship. He's just talking about he's in love with this city. The city has seduced him, the lights, the nighttime, the action, the fun, the money, the drama. And that's the essence of what Elvis saw in Las Vegas and what Las Vegas saw in Elvis.
It's a great performance by Elvis, and that probably more than anything would connect the words Las Vegas with Elvis.
I mean, Viva Las Vegas going forward more than 20 years, more than 30 years, really. It's the unofficial Vegas theme song. There's no two ways about it.
Viva, Viva.
With the exception of Viva Las Vegas, perhaps, because that's a truly unique motion picture. Many of the movies that he made really became more travelogues.
They fell into a pattern, a really uncool pattern. I said, Elvis, what's the new movie about? He said, George, same story, different location. I beat up a guy, sing 12 songs, and I get the girl in the end.
And that has a lot to do with what the Colonel decided when it came time to choosing material.
At a certain point, even Elvis and Colonel Parker had to realize that he'd reached a dead end with movies.
Elvis wanted to be a real serious actor, and he wasn't becoming a serious actor at all. He felt that he wasn't doing anything that he really wanted to do.
Elvis was not performing live in the 60s when he was making these movies. The only time he was singing songs was on screen. He was not happy with the songs that he was given to sing in these movies, and also he wasn't selling.
The record industry also moved on a little bit, and I really think that Elvis was very aware of that. He did go through a time when he felt maybe he'd be left behind, that maybe he wouldn't have the legacy he thought.
Elvis was starting to seem old hat and out of touch by the late 60s. And that was something that even Colonel Parker couldn't ignore. They knew that Elvis has got to reestablish himself.
I think it all changed it when Colonel Parker came up with the 68 comeback special.
The 68 comeback special is a pivotal moment for Elvis Presley. This is a guy who has been off the road for an awful long time at this point.
The NBC special, which came to be known as the comeback special, and put him in front of a live audience, a very small live audience. Everything that live performance had always meant to him, I think, came back to him. So at the end of making the television special in 68, he made the declaration, I want to go back to live performance. He told the Colonel this in front of a number of people, something which never happened.
The Colonel isn't exactly thrilled with the idea of Elvis going back on stage. Money might not be good, shows might not be good, you'll be traveling. Vegas becomes a way of solving some of these problems.
Vegas really is about to have a tremendous transformation. And by the end of the decade, it's going to be a much different town. The transition was going away from the old lounges and the more informal dinner theater to a bigger production area.
Coming soon to the most fabulous city on earth, the International Hotel.
The Colonel saw an opportunity with the opening of the new International Hotel in Las Vegas, which was scheduled for the summer of '69.
They approached Colonel Parker about bringing Elvis into Vegas and opening the International Hotel. So they cut a deal.
Before Elvis came to Vegas, most of the showrooms were very intimate. The Sands was where Frank and Sammy Dean were performing. There's, I think, about 500 seats.
The International Hotel, which would later become the Hilton, was really a groundbreaking hotel when it opened. The International showroom had 2,000 seats, and it was the kind of thing designed for a big spectacle on stage, so it was perfect for Elvis.
Elvis was not a kid anymore. He was mature. His voice reflected that. His music reflected that. He didn't want to just come out and do his 50s hits, so it required, a different approach to performing.
Elvis combines rock and roll with kind of a Vegas Broadway pit band. And he brings in a lot of these crack guys who worked on records with him and were session players.
And he put together two vocal backing groups, the Sweet Inspirations, who were a great soul group, and also the Imperials, who were basically a gospel quartet.
Vegas was where Elvis asserts himself. He's been cooped up in Hollywood singing the songs that other people wanted him to sing. Now Vegas becomes this place where he can call all the songs. It's also where his vision of his own music expands in its bands so that it's this great American tableau.
It was part of Elvis's vision to encompass under a single roof all the music that had ever meant anything to him. He wanted to introduce his audience to blues, to rhythm and blues, to gospel music, to country music, and to pop music that could use orchestration.
Now, Elvis at this point rehearses obsessively. I mean, he really concentrates on the music.
We were there for sometimes 12 hours a day, but it's just because the guy just loved to sing, and he loved the sound that he had with the TCB band, and he just ate it up. He didn't want to quit, but he had mercy on us, knowing that we were really tired about 10 o'clock at night, so he gave us a break.
And physically, he was so good looking. He was in shape. He weighed about 175 pounds. And when we were rehearsing with him, he wore weights around his wrists and around his ankles, so that when he was doing all of his moves, it's like he's working out.
The karate is gonna find its way into his stage moves and his stage clothing.
The biggest problem was the way Elvis is on stage, he's jumping all over the place, where the pants have a tendency to fall down. When he starts doing a kick or does a split or something, the seat tears out. A lot of times you have to stop the show, go off stage, change his pants, and come back out. Well, we talked to the wardrobe guy, Bill Ballou, at the time, and he said, hey, let's just make jumpsuits, because it's all one piece.
It was much easier for him as a one-piece outfit to be able to do moves like that and not have to worry, is your shirt coming out of your pants and that kind of thing. His overall look came completely into its own when he was in Vegas because of the amount of glamour and showgirls and so on. It just fit perfectly. It was grandiose.
Playing Vegas. It was a big step. It was a move into a territory where he really never established himself before.
They took a chance. If he bombed, it would be very embarrassing.
He remembered that the last time he'd played Vegas, it had not been a big hit.
So, can it be done? That's the question leading up to the Vegas debut. Can it be done?
Colonel, he did it this way. He bought every billboard in the city and put Elvis's picture and opening it at the International Hotel. We had every radio station all talking about Elvis coming to town.
It was strategically a brilliant move because the fervor, the whole thing of Elvis Presley being back on stage again. Oh my gosh, Elvis is back.
The phones were ringing off the hook. People from around the world were going to come to the International to see Elvis and to stay at the hotel.
And they come from Tokyo, Japan, with red jets, full of people, and bring him in.
The stars, everyone was there. Reservations sold out in about 2 days. That's 30 days of performing, 2 shows a night. They were all sold out reservations. Biggest arena in the city of Las Vegas at the time. Nobody ever expected that to happen. And all of a sudden just went crazy.
The last time he was out touring, he was this incredible rock and roll sensation. It didn't matter if he sang or not. He could knock them dead by walking on stage. But now, it's 1969. He's got to go out and do something he hasn't done before, which is perform in front of a crowd that's also heard the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan. I mean, times have changed.
The pressure of a new hotel, the pressure of the kind of money he was going to get, the pressure of the movie stars being there.
He didn't know whether they would accept him or whether they would boo him off stage in Vegas.
Part of him was just scared to death. I'm going to miss, and this will be the end of my career.
I walked off the stage, I walked back. Elvis was standing in the wings. He was white as a ghost. I looked at him and I shook his hand, and it was icy and cold. And I said, oh my God.
And we all tried to build up his confidence. You got those movements, you got that charisma, you look fantastic. You're going to knock him dead, Elvis. So when he went out on the stage, and in that first couple of sequences of That's All Right, Little Mama and Blue Suede Shoes, he was on his way again. Elvis seemed like a tiger that had been unleashed on stage, and he gave him something he'd never seen before.
We're talking about older people in a Vegas setting that were adults, you know, that were acting like screaming teenagers. It was fascinating to watch.
It was a culmination of all that he wanted in his life. He had everything in place, and he really wanted to make a statement. And he was probably just so high and pumped on adrenaline that he couldn't miss.
He finally figured it out, and he wanted to conquer that medium. He wanted to own Las Vegas, and he did.
He was like, I am here, right here, and I am the king.
When he walked off stage, he was just 3 feet off the ground. Colonel Parker came in. He had tears in his eye.
Elvis said, I'm like in heaven, man. I'm alive again. I'm on stage. I'm relating. I'm touching people.
The shows were an enormous triumph for Elvis. He set all kinds of records for attendance in Vegas that first engagement, and then repeatedly when he would come back, he would break his own records. He made more money and played to more people than anybody ever had in Las Vegas. He was absolutely at the top of his game.
What starts is the beginning of a love affair between the city of Las Vegas and Elvis Presley that goes on for years.
Elvis performed in Vegas until the end of his life.
When Elvis came to the International, later the Hilton, that would be the center of focus for the entire town. Elvis fans would come from all over to make a pilgrimage to Vegas just to see Elvis perform.
When promoters saw that he was able to fill a room like that, it opened their minds to the possibilities of bringing other talent into town that might be the next Elvis.
So Elvis was like an afterburner for a rocket or something. Sinatra was up there, but Elvis took it a step further.
You can still go to Las Vegas and see Elvis. You get that feeling when you're around there.
I don't know if there's any other performer who has thousands of people tribute artists out there wanting to emulate him, dress like him, look like him, perform like him.
There's Elvis everywhere in this town, and if you look around, you hear his music all the time. Elvis is attached to Vegas. There's no two ways about it. No two ways about it.